Rodrigo Duterte, the controversial former president known for his iron-fisted rule, makes a stunning political comeback as he takes his oath live as Davao City mayor, the very city where his legacy was born. As supporters cheer and critics raise eyebrows, the Philippines watches closely. Is this a return to grassroots leadership or a strategic move for greater political influence? The oath taken marks not just a local event but the possible reawakening of Duterte's enduring grip on Philippine politics. Whispers began to spread that Judge Valerio had been involved in reviewing a sensitive case related to government land appropriations, properties allegedly transferred under shell corporations linked to several well-known political families. Although no formal charges had been filed, sources within the court system hinted that she had received several veiled threats in the weeks leading up to the oath ceremony. One court clerk mentioned seeing her visibly shaken after a private phone call, but she had brushed it off as a personal issue. The most troubling clue came from the hotel's internal logs. A maintenance staff member noted a service request for room 79, Valerio's room, around 11:20 p.m., but claimed when he arrived no one answered the door. Speculation spread quickly. Some believed it was nothing more than a technical hiccup, but others weren't convinced. Independent analysts downloaded copies of the broadcast and began dissecting the footage frame by frame. What they found was disturbing. Missing metadata, frame inconsistencies, and irregular sound levels that suggested the footage had been deliberately altered. When a tech-savvy group compared the video to earlier raw footage captured by a local news station, they discovered the glitch didn't exist in the original feed. It had been introduced later, just before the stream was officially uploaded. This finding raised serious questions. Who had edited the video? And more importantly, why? The news station responsible for the broadcast refused to comment. Later, that same staff member was transferred to another hotel branch without explanation. Police asked for the hotel's CCTV backup drives, only to be told they were undergoing routine maintenance that week. As public curiosity grew, the media began connecting Valerio's disappearance with the political undercurrent surrounding Duterte's return to local power. Still, no officials addressed the matter publicly. Her family offered a reward for information, but days passed with no new leads. It wasn't just the judge who had vanished, it was the truth along with her, buried under layers of silence and carefully constructed routine. A week after Judge Leticia Valerio's disappearance, an anonymous tip reached a local investigative journalist known for covering corruption in Mindanao. 2 weeks after the ceremony, curious viewers began rewatching the live stream titled Duterte Oath Ceremony Live, hoping to catch details they might have missed the first time. One particular moment started gaining attention online, a brief, strange glitch in the video around the 23-minute mark. What should have been a continuous shot of Duterte receiving applause abruptly cut to a wide aerial view of the crowd. The change lasted less than 10 seconds, but it was long enough for sharp-eyed viewers to notice something had been skipped. Those watching closely remembered a peculiar exchange. Just before the glitch, a man in a dark suit had approached Duterte and handed him a small, sealed envelope. When the camera cut back, the man was gone, and Duterte was already tucking the envelope into his inner coat pocket. One neighbor recalled hearing him say on the phone, "If I disappear, check the vault. They won't stop now." The discovery of the key added urgency to the already growing sense of unease surrounding the recent events in Davao. Journalists started digging into Dalisay's role in previous land audits, especially during the years when property records began to shift hands under suspicious circumstances. While he had not been a well-known figure publicly, those within city circles knew him as a quiet, methodical worker. The kind of man who remembered every peso that passed through the books. The presence of the key, so deliberately hidden, pointed to a deeper layer in the unfolding mystery. Dalisay had clearly tried to protect something, But whatever it was, he had run out of time. The tipster claimed to have knowledge of a red folder the judge had been carrying in the days leading up to her vanishing. According to the source, the folder contained sensitive information, names, dates, transaction records, and property titles, all tied to a network of government insiders involved in illegal land acquisitions. It was reportedly her personal compilation of evidence, something she never trusted to digital storage. She was allegedly preparing to submit the folder to a higher court for review. Colleagues of Judge Valerio later confirmed that she had been unusually guarded with her files during her final week in court. She carried the red folder with her everywhere, including into closed-door meetings and even to lunch breaks. Their official statement claimed all content had been archived and could not be released due to internal policy. One technician from the editing department, speaking anonymously, said he was instructed by a superior to trim dead air from the video, but the specific cut he made did not align with what was seen in the final version. He admitted he no longer had access to the original files. Adding fuel to the fire, a document leaked from the Office of Protocol confirmed that no envelope exchange was part of the official ceremony procedure. There were no records of any scheduled handover during the event. A court clerk recalled seeing her clutching it tightly as she left the courthouse 2 days before her disappearance. It wasn't in her car when police searched it, and it wasn't among the documents left in her hotel room. Investigators scoured her office, home, and storage locker, but the folder was never found. The existence of this folder added a disturbing layer to the case. If it held the kind of evidence the tipster described, it could have been the motive behind her disappearance. The whistleblower alleged that Judge Valerio had uncovered a decades-long scheme involving dummy corporations acquiring valuable land across Davao and nearby provinces. The titles were later sold to foreign investors under forged identities, with profits funneled into offshore accounts. Some of the original landowners were believed to have been threatened, bribed, or made to disappear. More chillingly, the folder was said to include a list of current and former officials who either benefited from or protected the operation, including judges, police commanders, business executives, and at least one sitting politician who was seen on stage during Duterte's oath ceremony. The list, if real, had the power to unravel a deeply rooted criminal network. Despite the explosive nature of the claims, no official confirmation was made. When journalists tried to contact the Office of the Ombudsman, they were met with silence. Rumors swirled that a quiet order had been issued to suppress information related to Judge Valerio's work. Authorities were called to the scene, and within hours the shoreline was cordoned off. The man was quickly identified through his wallet and government ID as Francisco Dalisay, a senior accountant formerly employed by the city government under Duterte's earlier administration. His recent employment record was unclear, but he had been seen in the vicinity of City Hall just days before the oath-taking ceremony. An autopsy revealed multiple contusions and ligature marks on his wrists and ankles, suggesting he had been restrained before death. There were signs of blunt force trauma to the back of his head, but it was drowning that ultimately killed him. Journalists who pursued the story began receiving anonymous warnings, some finding threatening notes left on their windshields. As days turned into weeks, the red folder became a symbol of corruption, of truth buried beneath fear, and of a justice system teetering on the edge. Its absence was louder than any press release, and those who believed in its existence knew one thing for certain: someone was willing to do anything to make sure it never surfaced. Most curiously, a small key had been sewn into the lining of his jacket, expertly hidden and unlikely to have been found unless someone knew exactly where to look. The key bore the logo of a local pawn shop chain known for providing safety deposit services. Investigators immediately suspected that Dalisay had been safeguarding something important, something he had tried to keep hidden, even in death. When the police searched his apartment in downtown Davao, they found nothing out of the ordinary. His computer had been wiped clean, his drawers were empty, and several of his personal files had been burned in a small trash bin behind the building. Neighbors said he had been acting anxious in the days leading up to his death, making several late-night phone calls and receiving unmarked envelopes. Rodrigo Duterte, Leticia Valerio, and Francisco Dalisay. 3 names forever linked by a web of power, secrets, and disappearance that shook the heart of Davao City. What began as a simple oath-taking ceremony spiraled into a chilling mystery of corruption and silence, where every truth uncovered only deepened the darkness. This is the story they tried to bury. After the ceremony, Duterte disappeared from public view, skipping the reception and leaving in a dark SUV with tinted windows. He didn't speak to reporters, didn't wave to the crowd. It was unusual for a man known for bold public statements. That silence would echo far louder in the days to come, as the first pieces of a much darker puzzle began to surface. The day after Rodrigo Duterte's oath-taking ceremony, news broke that Judge Leticia Valerio had failed to appear for a scheduled court session at the Davao Regional Trial Court. At first, her absence raised no alarm. Judges occasionally postponed hearings due to illness or personal matters, but by late afternoon her staff confirmed she hadn't called, hadn't sent word, and hadn't been seen since the previous evening. Her last known location was a luxury hotel in Matina, just a few kilometers from where the oath ceremony had taken place. Sharp-eyed observers noticed that several of the bodyguards were unfamiliar, wearing plain black suits without any government insignia. One reporter whispered that they weren't police at all, but private security flown in from Manila. No one could confirm it. An envelope was handed to Duterte just before the oath began. It wasn't part of the program. The cameras caught it only briefly, but it stirred speculation. The live stream glitched at that exact moment, cutting to a wide crowd shot before returning to the podium. No one from the event organizers addressed the glitch afterward. In the control room, a technician reportedly asked if they should re-air the original recording, only to be told it had already been archived permanently. Her car, a gray sedan, was found parked neatly outside the hotel entrance. The driver's door was locked, but nothing inside seemed disturbed. Her briefcase, still on the passenger seat, contained routine case documents, some handwritten notes, and a set of keys. Her phone, however, was missing. Hotel staff confirmed she had checked in the day before the ceremony and had booked a room under her real name. Surveillance footage showed her entering the hotel lobby around 9:13 p.m., dressed casually and carrying a small tote bag. What puzzled investigators was the fact that no footage existed of her leaving the premises. The security cameras on the first floor mysteriously went dark between 10 p.m. and 12:30 a.m., a critical window that covered the hours she may have disappeared. The police launched an investigation but offered few public details. On a sweltering July afternoon, the sun beat down over Davao City Hall as thousands gathered to witness a moment few had anticipated. Rodrigo Duterte, former president of the Philippines, stood on the grand steps of the building, preparing to take his oath as mayor once again. The event was widely promoted across media platforms under the title Duterte Oath Ceremony Live, drawing millions of viewers not just from Davao, but across the entire nation. People crowded the streets, waving flags and holding up signs, some of support, others of protest. Drone cameras buzzed overhead while national television aired every second of the spectacle. It had been just over a year since Duterte stepped down from the presidency, but his influence remained as strong as ever. For his supporters, this was a return to form, a return to the man who had cleaned up Davao decades ago. For others, especially journalists and critics, it was an eerie reminder of unresolved questions and quiet disappearances that had marked his years in power. Despite his age, Duterte walked with confidence, flanked by loyal allies and newly elected officials. His swearing-in was simple but dramatic, set against a large stage draped in the Philippine flag. As he raised his right hand and repeated the oath, there was thunder in the distance, though no clouds hung in the sky. Beneath the formality and pageantry, however, something felt off. The crowd was strangely subdued for such a high-profile event. Security was tighter than usual, and the local police presence seemed unnaturally thick. The key found on Francisco Dalisay's body became the focus of intense investigation. After matching the logo, authorities traced it to an old branch of a pawn shop located in the heart of Bangkoroan Market, a bustling area more known for produce and seafood than secrets. The branch had been closed for years, its faded signage barely visible behind grime-covered glass. According to city records, the property was sold 3 times in the past decade under different business names, all of which led to empty shells with no real operations. Still, the vault had never been removed. When investigators pried open the rusted door to the safety deposit room, they found it almost empty, except for a single dust-covered box tucked deep into the corner. It matched the number on the key sewn into Dalisay's jacket. Inside the box were several flash drives, a small leather notebook, and a stack of documents wrapped in plastic. The air in the room seemed to freeze as they opened it. The flash drives, when later decrypted, contained a vast collection of scanned documents, land titles, bank statements, and internal memos marked confidential. The transactions showed a consistent pattern. Public lands, especially those near transport terminals and ports, had been funneled through fake entities and resold for enormous profits. Many of these transactions were backdated and appeared to have been cleared by local government offices during Duterte's earlier years as mayor. Some of the signatories on the documents were still active in various branches of government. The most incriminating find, however, was in the leather notebook. Written in neat, slanted handwriting were names, dates, and coded entries that seemed to correspond with land seizures and disbursements. Each entry listed a government project, followed by figures and initials, presumably referring to individuals who had received a cut from the deal. Investigators believed it was Dalisay's personal ledger, a map to a massive corruption scheme that had been operating under the radar for years. News of the discovery was kept quiet, but rumors quickly spread through Davao's political circles. A few officials abruptly took leaves of absence. Others began distancing themselves from previous public endorsements of the returning mayor. The documents had the potential to collapse multiple careers, or worse, implicate figures that had remained untouchable for decades. Despite the explosive contents of the box, there was no immediate move from national authorities. The findings were quietly sent to an internal anti-corruption unit, but no public statements were made. It was as though the system itself was holding its breath, waiting to see who would speak first, or who would disappear next. Less than a week after the Bangkoroan House vault was uncovered, authorities arrested a man attempting to leave the country using a forged passport. His real name was Ernesto Magno, a former personal driver for the city prosecutor, and a familiar face around Davao's municipal buildings. He had booked a one-way ticket to Malaysia and was caught during a routine immigration check when his identification failed verification. What at first seemed like a simple case of attempted illegal departure quickly escalated into something far more troubling. Magno, under pressure during questioning, admitted that he had been involved in more than just driving city officials. He confessed to delivering sensitive documents, transporting people to hidden locations, and acting as a lookout during key meetings. Many of these trips occurred during the days surrounding Duterte's oath-taking ceremony. Though reluctant to name names, Magno did reveal a crucial piece of information. On the night of Judge Leticia Valerio's disappearance, he had been stationed in the parking lot of the Matina Hotel, waiting for an unnamed official. Accurate to his account, he witnessed an argument between 2 high-ranking individuals near the back entrance of the hotel. When investigators searched Magno's home, They found a burner phone with a series of encrypted text messages, including several that appeared to reference the missing red folder and the Bangkarohan vault. One message, time-stamped just 2 hours before Dalisay's death, simply read, "Too late. Secure everything. Erase." Despite the mounting evidence, Magno was transferred quietly to a detention facility outside the city, his case sealed under national security grounds. Journalists trying to follow up on his arrest received no responses. What should have been a public breakthrough became just another secret locked behind bars, reinforcing the chilling idea that in Davao, truth was something carefully managed and never freely given. Journalists formed coalitions to protect themselves and keep the story alive. The red folder, though never recovered, became a symbol of courage, the missing piece of truth that inspired a new generation to demand change. The case of Duterte's Oath Ceremony had evolved from a simple political event into a sprawling saga of power, secrecy, and sacrifice. It revealed how one man's return to local power stirred a storm that challenged the very foundations of justice in the Philippines. The final chapter remained unwritten, but one thing was clear. In Davao, the fight for truth was far from over.